Hey everybody, welcome back to another episode of my podcast. And today I'm actually going to talk about something that I was actually experiencing just a couple days ago. So this is definitely going to be for if you're on that journey of detaching from somebody, or AKA I kind of like to call it a detox, right? And you know how when I'm not just talking about you not being in contact with somebody. I'm talking about the energetic detaching, okay? And I'm going to probably do another episode about how no contact by itself doesn't work on its own. You have to emotionally detach too. But anyway, so like I said, this is probably going to hit home for people who are on this journey of emotionally detaching from somebody who is not good for you, okay? And basically, a couple days ago, I was having some really heavy residue, okay, about a particular individual. Now, I did mention him a couple episodes ago. Actually, it was my podcast called basically why I decided to walk away from him, why I let him go. And basically, you know if you've experienced this residue. It's that leftover energy of that person that you used to really, really care about. You may have loved this person. You may have even been obsessed with them. And for a couple of years, I was literally obsessed with this person. I couldn't stop thinking about them. I couldn't help but imagine what a future would be like, despite them not showing up for me, breadcrumbing me, only hearing from them if I were to reach out, and things like that. And, basically, somebody who hasn't treated you the way you deserve, right? So, I do proudly want to say that I'm now 90% detached, but I felt like I've reached a breakthrough, because before that I was at maybe about 80% detached. And that was when that heaviness of him popping in my mind was kind of heavy, and it may feel like you're going backwards if you've ever experienced that, but you're really not, okay? And I'm gonna go deeper into that. So here's the thing. Now, what I used to do is I basically usually what the old me would have done would just let those thoughts linger, and I would just sit in it and just think about, oh man, if he were to, maybe one day he might just change and realize my worth, and we could be together and be happy. And instead of those thoughts being lingered, where I'm just going around and around and around thinking about it for several moments or even several hours sometimes, or something like that, which is what I used to do. Now I catch it, right? I catch when that thought comes up. And what I would do is I have this mantra I always say to myself. And my mantra, if I haven't mentioned it already in another episode, is I would literally say to myself, this is just residue. He's no longer here. I'm with me now. Okay. I actually had to start actually saying to myself that this is just residue, instead of just, my mantra by itself of he's no longer here. With me now, because I noticed what would happen is that I would still have some anxiety attached to it, like I was experiencing a couple days ago. Hopefully this is making sense with you guys, but if you have to rewind to understand it better, please do so. And I noticed that when I do this, when I tell myself that this is just residue on top of my mantra, and then I would even have to do a grounding exercise, right? And I do a grounding ritual, I think, with my last episode, right? And when I would do like a grounding exercise, that would definitely help me get myself back into the present moment, right? And I can pretty much go on about my day, at least until like if that energy like just creeps back in, and like I would start thinking about him, and then I would just do it again. So basically, if you're going through this and you're at a point where you feel pretty mostly detached from the person, where you don't really think about them as much anymore. You're not checking their social media. You're not looking at tarot readings to see what they're up to, supposedly. Okay. I was a person guilty of this for several years. I kid you not, probably since about 2014, if not 20. It didn't hit heavy for me until about 2017, but anyway, that's another story within itself. But hopefully some of you guys can resonate with that. Okay, so like if you're not looking at readings or anything like that with them, about them, or seeing what they're up to, or asking mutual friends about them, whatever the case may be, and you're mostly detached, or you would know the difference. Okay. Then, obviously this episode is going to be for you. But basically, so when those, like I said, if those thoughts creep in, stop yourself. Now, you don't have to say the exact mantra that I've came up with. You can say any type of mantra that you feel that's going to resonate most for you. Okay. But this is just one of my ways that have helped me for maybe about a month or so. I've been using this mantra, and that's definitely helped shift and like move myself forward in regard to the detachment that I have with this person. Okay. So let me see. I'm just trying to get my thoughts together, you guys. So yeah. So like, basically I was able to feel the anxiety come up, which I mentioned, right? And those old habits of wondering, overthinking, replaying memories, things like that. So just remember to stop yourself. I know I just said that, but the difference now is that with the cord that I had with him, it's like now, because it's so faded out, it's now just like an emotion. There's like an emotional echo of the past that I have with him. That's basically it. And that's going to happen when you get close to detaching from someone. You're going to just have emotional echoes. And if you don't really know what those are basically just like I kind of call them like random thoughts, like where it just kind of pops out of nowhere. Now, this is going to be different than like if you had, like, let's say, because I know some of you guys might think like, well, am I fully detached if I think of an ex from like 20 years ago? That's totally different. Okay. This is going to be just a tad bit different when you're like, emotionally attached to somebody. All right. But back to the story here. I've done a lot of work. I've shed a lot of tears about this person. I've definitely cut the cords, and I've made peace with the fact that he's not willing to show up healed. And because of that, because honestly, the way I look at it now, you guys, it's like, as I'm pretty much really, really, really close to like just being 100% detached, it's pretty much just come to terms of like, well, if he really wanted me bad enough, then he would have shown up by now, period, point blank. And it doesn't mean, just because I said that, it has nothing to do with me not being good enough for that person. No, it's just that person is not ready for you. Okay, they're not. Because why do you think that like they can be, this because you should know this, because if you really have to ask, you have to ask yourself, you guys, even if this person did get into another relationship, do you think that that person's really happy in that other relationship? 9 times out of 10, no, they're not. And then next thing you know, you might just hear that things ended with that person. That's what actually happened with this person I'm mentioning in this episode. Is that's what happened with him. It's like I thought my world was just, I thought everything was just done, and you know like everything, he just, like, I felt like, I was like, oh my God, he never cared about me. He never felt this connection I had. I was like going around in circles about it, right? But when he did get married and all that stuff, I was, even though I felt like my world had been shattered, right? But then when I had learned that, his relationship ended in like 3 months, I was just like, holy crap, what happened? Right? So that tells you a lot right there. And this is the kind of stuff that happens on the other side of things. That's why they say the grass isn't greener on the other side. Okay, you guys. So, so my whole point is just like, it's just kind of like, you have to think about like, well, if this person is not showing up, they're not meant for you anyway, because there's so much better out there for you to experience with somebody who will show up. Okay, that's my whole point. But so back to the story once again. I know I keep jumping around, you guys, but I just want to make a valid point, and I hope that it resonates with some of you. But so like I said, like, it's totally up to you what kind of mantra you want to use, or doing something that's going to definitely make you feel grounded. Because the more that you do it, the more that, you'll feel like the fog has been lifted when it comes to this person. And that's what you want. The anxiety will start to get more quiet. Okay. Like the thoughts of that person will start to deteriorate. And that's when you start to remember and get connected back to who you are. Okay, because it really has nothing to do with them. All right. And don't get me wrong. I'm not sitting here being sad about, this guy. Okay. I'm like, and literally the reason why I titled this reading the way that it is because I am calling in like a dream partner, and one of my dream partners is actually somebody that does actually exist, and he is a pretty popular public figure. I know probably a lot of you haven't heard of them, but basically they are a famous fitness model. He goes by the name of Elton, and well, I'll just leave that there. Okay, but basically, because you want to put your energy onto somebody who could potentially be, available for you. And that's what I decided to do, because I was just like, you know what? I know that I deserve somebody who is secure, emotionally available, extremely sexy, like this guy this new guy I'm like putting my energy towards, and somebody that has the potential to be a provider and shows up for me, and so on and so forth. That's what we got to put our energy towards, you guys, not towards people who we know that where they can't even do any of that for you. Okay. And, because we want somebody who's not going to ghost us, who's going to give, who's going to lead, who's going to show up and doesn't have you wondering about anything. Okay. So if you're listening right now to this and you're ready to definitely call your person in as well too. Okay. I want you to close your eyes for a moment. Picture your version of, well, for this episode, this person I really would like to experience potentially, if not somebody better. Elton into your life, or, whatever dream person maybe are gaga about. Okay. Let's just do that. Okay. They text you back without hesitation. They plan dates with you. They hold you close. They look at you like you're magic, and you are. You feel seen, safe, sexy. You don't have to beg for clarity. You don't have to question your worth. Now, how does that feel? You're done with the crumbs. You're ready for a connection. Okay? And now you can open your eyes. How does that make you feel? Does that make you feel good? I really hope that it does, because every time I embody being like with somebody like Elton is just, it always makes me feel safe. I don't know what it is, but he just always makes me feel safe and comforted, and that's what you deserve. Okay. So I know that the journey is not always easy. And like I said, like, the residue can definitely sneak up on the best of us at any point in time, but you are definitely in control of it, okay, of when it pops up, because you have a brain. You can control it. You don't have to let it linger into the past or about this person who's no longer serving you, okay? So say your mantra when these thoughts do come up, and choose yourself, because every time you do that, you take your power back. Every time you stop looking at that tarot reading, you're taking your power back. Okay? Or social media. I know social media and stalking people's pages is another big one for a lot of people. Okay? I never personally had that issue. I can tell you that right now. I'm glad I didn't. But you gotta learn how to discipline yourself, you guys. Okay? I'm proud of you. I'm proud of myself. And I know we're both going to be looking back like, my past person, you guys know his name was Taz. And now I'm just like, Taz who? That's what you're going to be saying. Like, you're going to be saying that to the person like, who? I don't remember them. Okay, that's what we want. So say it with me, guys. Say this mantra with me. He's no longer here, or she's no longer here. I'm with me now. And let's make room for someone who's not just, extremely sexy or fine, but that they're finally aligned. Okay? If this episode spoke to you, share it with your soul sisters who are also clearing out that last bit of residue. And you can always feel free to email me or tag me with your favorite mantra that's keeping you grounded while you wait for your, in my case, Elton, or whoever your dream person is. So until next time, you guys, stay soft, stay powerful, and don't settle for less than what lights you the fuck up. Okay? And I'll catch you guys in the next episode. See you guys later.